Sage Wanderer here. I'm kind of pissed because I've never encountered so much interference, it seems demonic to me, in trying to make a video. So this may be the most important video I've ever made because it seems like the powers are aligned against me making it. So we're going on like attempt number 15 here, and I won't even go into all the things that have gone wrong and try and make this video, but here it is. Here's why I think we're winning. Because this is not a battle against right versus left. This is a battle of right versus wrong. This is a battle of light versus dark. The darkness has risen up in our world and in our country and in our communities, and in some of us even in our own families. An evil that wants to destroy America. An evil that wants to rule the world, if you want to know the truth. So I am talking about the globalists, the Illuminati. I am talking about the powers that be, who I believe are behind this communist revolution. The people that are paying Antifa for their antics. The people that control the press. The people that control the entertainment industry. And until recently, the people that controlled most of our government. I think that them showing their hand is an act of arrogance, and pride cometh before the fall. So these individuals that are orchestrating all of this, they fear only one thing. And unfortunately, right-wing guys, I know you're tough, and I'm glad you're protecting me. I hope you really are. I hope I could call on you if I needed you, and I'm sure I could. But they're not even scared of your guns. They're scared to death of the light. They're scared to death of the truth. They're scared to death that we will see what they really are. Now, I haven't talked about this topic on my page. I try to stick to things that I'm directly related to. And honestly, this plot seems far, far away from me, although I know it affects everyone. And I've got to say that they fear that we will find out who they are, what they really stand for. Because, in my opinion, the root of communism is the spirit of control. And something I picked up my days as a preacher is that there is a spiritual name that those who fight evil for a living know well. It is the literal name of the spirit of control. It's called the spirit of Jezebel. And the only way to defeat the spirit of Jezebel, the only person that can defeat the spirit of Jezebel is the king. Now, if you know the Bible, you know this refers to the story of Elijah and his battle with Queen Jezebel. And that there's a whole doctrine around the spirit of control. And I believe that's the spirit that has wrapped its tentacles around our country and our culture in America and around the world. Everyone wants to control everyone else. And the only person that can deal with this uprising is Donald Trump. But we are helping him when we are soldiers of the light and soldiers of the truth. And so I want to tell you right now, I believe with my whole heart, that the people at the very top of things, the people that are orchestrating all of this, are Satanists. They are devil worshippers. They do ceremonies and blood oaths and make sacrifices to pagan gods. That none of them are Christian, and they hate Christianity. And the only reason they even like other religions, which I won't name because when I do, they edit my videos or they take them offline. But you know the one from the land of the sand. That religion, they're fine with that because that one hates Christianity too. And I'm not taking Alex Jones's word for this. I knew about this before there was an Alex Jones. Because the very beginning of my life and my career as a musician, I came face to face with this evil, and here is my story. I had the #1 band in a major American city, in a music scene that was booming. We weren't the first of the bands that were finding their way out of this and into the national spotlight. We were about 4th or 5th down when our friends started getting signed to record deals and being whisked off in airplanes and being put on Saturday Night Live and Johnny Carson or David Letterman. My friends, they were going and doing it. We were coming back and talking about and watching the videos together, you know. Fame was knocking at my door because I had done everything right and I was at the right place in the right time, and it was about to be my turn. Me and my band that we worked so hard together on that project made some great records, got radio airplay, got noticed, got on television. And we were next because everybody else was already succeeding. And that was the well they were drawing from right then at that point in time, right where I was at. And something happened that derailed it all. I was asked to make a morality call, a personal judgment call about which side I stood on when it came to the topic of abortion. Now, if you know me from this channel, you know that I am pro-choice, but only because I believe it's the constitutionally right and correct way. That our free choice is what we all have, guaranteed to us by God. It's the power of free will. But I'm anti-abortion. And back then I was anti-abortion, and I wanted to make sure there was a law against it. Now, no one suspected me because I was a rock and roller and I had long hair and I was wild and I drank heavily. And but they should have saw the signs that I was different because I didn't fool around. I was married and I always went home every night, or as soon as I got done, however many nights in a row it was. And I always went home alone. And so when we were offered the opportunity for our big break, it was like by nature there was a string attached. So our big break was to get to open up for a band that was well known nationwide, and I guarantee you all of you would know who this band was. And this event was tied to Lilith Fair. And they chose us because we had a girl in the band. I think that's part of it, We were somewhat a female-fronted group. And the event was a pro-abortion rally. And honestly, the city, at the time that this was going on, the city where this was happening, rather large metropolitan city, was kind of in an uproar because there had been several days of pro-abortion rallies, and they've been clashing with Christian people, and it was kind of in the news. And they chose our band to open after a full day of music festival, really a full weekend. That they chose our band to open for the national headlining act. And it was our entrance into the big time. And simultaneously, while this was going on, we were negotiating with 2 major labels and an indie label to release our first, well, not our first record, our first nationally recognized and promoted record. And we made a couple on our own, and that's what got their attention. So when this opportunity came up, the band leader calls me on the phone first and goes, "Hey, I just want to make sure you're on board. We're not getting paid for this, but it's a big deal." And he told me about it. And I'm a guy that don't mind doing charity work. I don't, I've played so much for free for veterans causes. I mean, I even been out to the old folks' home where the old veterans go to retire here in Oregon, and played for about 30 of them. Some of them were from World War II. And I performed for them for free. Went out of my way to do that. That's the kind of guy I am. I do that stuff. But this was a charity that I could not support. It was a radical political action committee that was trying to push even more free and paid for government access to abortion. And they spent a lot of their money on brainwashing, campaigns in print and on television. I was familiar with the organization, and there was no way in hell I was going to play for them. So I said, look, guys, let's just skip it. I'm, you know, religiously and morally opposed to that concept. And they were shocked because they had no idea. But I had to stand my ground. I'm not going to offer my God-given gift to promote something I don't believe in. And I would not go. And my phone rang off the hook. Thank God there was no cell phones back then. But my phone rang off the hook around the clock. It was like harassment. And it wasn't just my own band calling me. It was club owners, other musicians, people trying to reason with me, explaining to me that I was flushing away my career if I didn't play. And my argument was, well, we were good enough before all this. We'll be good enough after all of this. We've done everything right. We got 3 record labels, and they're just chomping at the bit for us, and we're next. Don't get excited. We don't have to do this gig. No big deal. So we didn't do the gig because they obviously could, I mean, they couldn't play without me. I was the soul of the groove. You know, my piano in a rock band gives it an energy that you can't get from a guitar. It's a different kind of energy. It's a soulful energy. And it came from my experience in church. And I applied it well to what we were doing. So we didn't play the show. And word got around, and it was kind of the buzz in town for a while. Hey, did you know so-and-so? Did you know? We'll just use my fake name here. You know, Sage over there, he's some kind of religious fanatic. His dad was a preacher, and he won't play the Lilith Fair thing, man. And they were like, well, good, fine, give it to us, man. We'll take it. Because it was a big opportunity. One I apparently was expected to take. About 3 weeks later, after killing it at one of the biggest nightclubs, really not biggest, but most popular and coolest nightclubs in America at that time, and a place that I felt like was my second home, and a place where everyone knew my name, and we came up through that club, and we just finished our big show, and it was the end of the night, and I was kind of holding court. It was what I did, you know. I'd get done, I'd want to have a few drinks, smoke a couple cigarettes, chill out. And I'd pick a table and I would just camp there. And of course, people would come to me and we'd sign autographs. And, you know, I'd have a table, and maybe another guys, they'd have a table. We'd all sit at one table. But so I had a lot of people around me, and, you know, just a lot of fan stuff going on. And as each group started leaving, as the bar was closing, it kind of boiled down to just this one guy who I did not know, had never seen before. And he seemed very out of place. For one thing, he was wearing a sports coat, and this was a kind of a crazy punk bar. And, you know, he did not fit in there at all. But we got that a lot because, you know, our popularity drew in people from all sorts of, you know, types and lifestyles, you know. It was very across-the-board accessible commercial sound. But he sticks around, and then he does something that's kind of spooked me. He called me by my full name, you know, my God-given name. And once on my birth certificate, all 3 of them. And, you know, nobody knew that. Nobody knew that. I didn't know that about me. You know, that might have been on my tax return or my job applications, but you had to do some digging to know who. I mean, my bandmates didn't know my middle name. So he calls me by my whole name, and he introduces himself. And he hands me a card. And the card says, I wish I could remember exactly, but it says something like Consolidated Entertainment Industries International. I think it was something like that. Big, long name. The guy's name was on the card. And he tells me that he wants to talk to me for a minute. You know, so we sit down and we talk, and he goes, look. I said, is this a record label? Because I was used to A&R guys. You're an A&R guy, you know, because we're already talking to some people. And he goes, no, we're not a record label. And I said, well, what are you? And he goes, well, we're an industry that oversees all record labels. We're an industry leader, and all record labels, major and minor, radio stations, music venues, they kind of all, you know, answer to us. And we decide, really, if somebody is good enough or right for the entertainment business. And we decide who gets to participate and who doesn't. And I didn't really believe him because I knew a lot about the music business, and, you know, I'd gotten that far, and that sounded like total crap to me. But I let him continue. But I asked him, I said, so, you know, what exactly do you do? He goes, well, let's just say that we govern what kind of people get to work in the business. And I said, oh, really? Am I the right kind of person? Because I'm working in the business. And he said, well, as a matter of fact, I wanted you to know that we've been watching you. That creeped me out. Knows my whole name, and he's been watching me. So he says, yeah, we've been watching your career for many years. We've seen you come up through your youth. We've been watching your talent. We've been aware of you. You've been on our radar. We saw you through your struggles. We saw you make it up and claw your way through cover bands. We saw you find your way into this band. We saw you take this band over and become a major player in this band and do all the music and rebrand the band. And we're impressed with you and your band. And we're talking to you because we know that without you, this band cannot function. That you play such a huge role in this that you're essentially irreplaceable. You know, we thought about taking the band without you. And I was like, what do you mean? What's wrong with me? And he says, well, you know, it's your religion. Religion plays no place in the entertainment business. You can't be religious and be in the entertainment business. And I said, look, I'm really not religious, you know? What makes you think I'm religious? Because my dad was a preacher. And he goes, well, there's that. We know that. We know, though, that you're a man of faith and a man of principles. And although we respect that, we want you to know that there's no place for that in the music business. And he says, what do you want? What do you want, Sage? What do you want? You want cars? You want money? What is it that you want? You want drugs? We can get you all the drugs you want. We can give you a doctor to keep you alive while you're on those drugs. And I was shaking my head because I'm not a druggie and I never have been, I never will be. And then he says something that shocks me to this day. And honestly, every time I tell this story, I leave this part out because I just don't even want to repeat it. But I'm going to repeat it because we're shining the light on these people. We're showing you what they are. All of us are together. That's what's going on right now. You understand that, right? That more and more of us are going to stand up and go, this is who these people are. This is what they do. This is how they act. He says, so what is it you want? You know, is it sex? Is it sex? We can get you all the girls you want. Or is it guys? We can get you all the guys you want. Or is it kids? You like little kids? We can get you all the little kids you want. And I was just like, that's what flipped me. And he said, everything you ever wanted. What is it that you want? And I said, well, you know, I guess I want fame and fortune like anybody else. I mean, I want to be recognized for my talent, skills, and ability. And he says, well, whatever you want, everything you ever dreamed of, nothing is off limits. Nothing is beyond what we can give you. We will give you whatever you want, but you have to do what we say. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you know, creative control, what, you're going to write songs and make me play them, you know, because I'm not that kind of artist, you know, I write what I feel. You can't force that. And he's like, he interrupts me, he goes, no. You can do whatever you want. We don't really care about the art. Honestly, the art is just a means to an end for us. But we got to know you're on board with what we believe in. And I said, so what do you believe in? And he said, well, it changes and it's fluid, and that's, you know, for us to tell you. So we'll give you whatever you want, but you got to have whatever religion we tell you to have. You got to drop your religion. You can't have a religion. You can't be political. You can't have a political view. Let us give you your religion. Let us give you your political view. And for that, we will give you the world. He actually used that phrase. We will give you the world. I was starting to get kind of ticked off by then. You know, the petty child thing, you know, that was woohoo! That's one way to get a redneck pissed off. And I said, okay, so what if I don't? I don't need you. I mean, I come this far. I mean, ultimately, it's about talent, and I got gobs of that. And he's like, you do. You have gobs of it. Talent like yours comes along, 1 in a million. We can see it. It's written all over you. And And I said, so what if I don't comply? Why do I even need you? Who died and made you king? And he said, well, if you reject this offer, it will not be offered again, and you will never work in this town or any other town again, and your career is over as of tonight. And that just set me off, because I'd worked so hard for that. This guy's robbing me, and who do I even know who he is? Maybe he's a fake. You know, what is this card? Who is this guy? So I shove him. I shove the table right into him, and I shove it into him, and I just jump up. And I kind of come across the table at him, and I'm like, get out of my bar. Get out of my bar, but before me, and I won't name him, but this famous bouncer that works there is we're gonna work you over in the parking lot. Get out of my bar. And I chase this guy out of the club, and he's kind of laughing and strolling and barely looking over his shoulder. And he said, you'll regret that someday. You're done. You're done. You'll never work in this town again. You're done. Honestly, I didn't think any more about it. I figured it was just another bully, and I live my life encountering bullies, and I don't let them push me around. I just never have. I just don't have the stomach for it. So I just went on like normal. The first thing I noticed that something was wrong was that our record deals evaporated. No one would return our phone calls. Nobody. People who'd been staying the night at our house and partying with us. People that had been drinking our liquor and dating our girlfriends. You know what I mean? They'd been hanging out with our groupies and just, you know, getting to live the rock and roll lifestyle and romancing us for weeks. And now they won't return our phone call. Furthermore, we've been told that our contacts, our A&R at all 3 record labels, had been relocated to the West Coast, and they were no longer interested in doing business in Texas. At least for now. But I'm determined. I'm like, hey man, another deal will come along. We got it. We're selling records. What are they going to do? You know, they got to cut us in. We're making money already. And then the gigs dried up. You know, I had people who were our biggest fans who begged us for bookings. Places that we had stopped playing because we had so many better bookings, and we were just booked, and you can only play so many places and so many nights, and we had to tell them no. Who wouldn't return our phone calls. And we had an album in the can. It was waiting to be pressed when all that went down. And I saw the writing on the wall, and it prompted me to quit. I walked away from it. Because I figured the guy was right and there wasn't a thing I could do about it. And I never told my story until recently because I was afraid I would be ridiculed as a crazy person or paranoid, or people would say, oh, you drank a lot that night, didn't you, Sage? But I'm sharing my story now because we are in a life and death struggle for our nation. And these people that control Hollywood, these people that control the media, these people that control Silicon Valley, these people entrenched in our government, they're Satanists. Now you might say, oh, he just wanted you to comply. I know what he meant. I'd heard the stories of the Crossroads. I knew it when I recognized it, when I saw it. That's why I got so mad. Because I knew he had the power to undo me. I knew he had the power to just deny me access. And I kept playing, and I switched genres, and I'd come up and I'd change my name, but when I got to a certain place, I just always got slapped down. You know how many friends of mine sat down and went, what happened to you? We had you slated as probably being the most famous person to ever come out of these parts. I mean, if you'd asked me who was going to make it out of all these people, I would have picked you. How did you not make it? And I would tell them, I don't know. I guess I just didn't zig I zigged when I should have zagged. In the back of my mind, I always knew. It's part of why I became a preacher. Because I was awakened to the depth of the evil in the world. And since that event, I have talked to many, many musicians. Some of which were treated very shabbily when they said no. There are some in the entertainment industry that have found a way to get around this. And I often beat myself up because I wonder maybe I could have done this same thing. But they pretend to play along. They just play the spoiled, rotten artist card if they're asked to do things they don't want to. My throat hurts. Why do you think they're all prima donnas? Because they're being pushed and forced and manipulated, and when they don't want to comply, that's their only way, is to play sick like a little kid. I'm having a mental breakdown. I can't go do that. when really they're asking them in some way to violate for the millionth time, their own constitution, their own backbone, their own belief system. But some of them manage to make it through. But if they ever open their mouth, they're done. Look into it. It's a thing, I promise you. So many artists have sold their souls to the Illuminati, to this demonic power that's taking control of our country. We, the American people, have to stand up. I will no longer watch mainstream television. I have a tiny little guilty habit called The Walking Dead and another one called Game of Thrones. But they're about done anyway, and then I can walk away. And I've picked up no new vice. I know it's going to be hard, people. I know in your heart you know you have to do it too. You have to unplug from their manipulation. You have to stop listening. You have to stop going to the football games. You have to stop buying the records. You have to stop going to the movies. You got to stop paying the cable bill. That's one thing I love about YouTube. It's real people telling real stories. Not a lot of fakes on here, and a lot of people just trying to entertain you. But there's a lot of realness here, and what's better drama than real life, especially in these times we live in. I hope you're enjoying my channel. I'm going to keep making videos exposing these people for what they are and shining a light on all of it. Yeah, I think I'm finally starting to get pissed. We're not going to take it anymore. Twisted Sister, right? They're kind of like that guy. He's got quite a story himself about this business. At any rate, God is saving our republic.